are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue, Thursday, June 8th, and we have another episode here for you today. An absolutely packed one. Lots of sports to talk about today. So, a lot of NFL, gonna dabble in a little bit of college baseball in the news. We obviously have baseball season in full swing in the MLB. So we're starting to get more content. Things are adding to the docket. So now we're at the point where we're moving stuff to next week. We're moving things to different shows. We're trying to plan around the amount of content that we have, which feels good.
Doesn't happen often in June. June's a tough month.
Yes, it is. It kind of goes into a lull there right after the NFL season, and then after the draft, not much to talk about, but that is the exact opposite. So today, we're going to have Tim's rant to start us out. Jalen Hurts is the topic, so we're going to be going to the NFC East, taking a little visit to Philly. Hits and misses to close out the first segment, and in the second segment, we're going to have our NFL rookie projections. So we're going to take rookies that were drafted this year, pick a player in the league that we think they will end up like or have a career similar to, and compare them a little bit. Then we will have the news to close out the second segment. In the third segment, we will be ranking this week the top 10 coaches. So I think we've done quarterbacks, we've done weapons rooms, we've done defenses. It's time to do coaches, very important part. And I think we're going to do staffs. We're going to do combined. So
I like
head
that
coach,
idea.
OC, DC, because I feel like all three are so important.
Yeah, because I think right now, like Mike McDaniel, a little too young, probably wouldn't view him as a top 10 coach. Pretty close though, probably top 15.
Yeah,
had some success year one. Vic Fangio in the mix now,
exactly.
Definitely a lot closer to a top 10 coach.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like
staff
that.
as a whole. So we're going to rank the top 10 coaching staffs in the NFL, and then to close the show, a little discussion on Mac Jones. A lot of stuff to talk about. So no matter how you're here with us today, we appreciate it, taking time out of the day and being here. You can watch us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Prime Video, then of course listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music, among others. So just check the link there in the description to find all the hosts.
So I remember, oh my God, probably around this time last year, actually, when everyone was like, oh, Jalen Hurts this, Jalen Hurts that. And I was like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit. He had, like 7 games that were, like, decent. Overall his pass rating was, like 80s. He was completing, like, low 60% of his throws, averaging under 200 yards a game. Right, I think he had like almost a pick a game, right? So I said, relax. Now there was some special there. I said, he can run for sure. He's got this leadership quality, this underdog quality that everybody likes, and that has proven to win. Right, Joe Burrow had to transfer, Mahomes, 10th pick, and kind of came from a non-traditional power, sits for a year. Right, Brady 7th round or 6th round pick, whatever. So he's kind of got this underdog quality to him. And I said, but let's relax for a second. I said I probably wouldn't have moved off Wentz for him. I ended up being wrong there. He's definitely a much better quarterback than Carson Wentz, more consistent player, better leader. But story out, I think from The Athletic, that actually the Eagles around this time last year were looking to trade for Russell Wilson. They had a package on the table. The Seahawks had accepted it. The only thing it was waiting on was Russ, as he had a no trade clause, so he had to approve every trade, or approve any trade that he wanted. Right? Eventually, he goes to the Broncos, of course. But it was actually Russell Wilson that turned down the Eagles. Right? We think after a year, right? So this league is so year to year, right? Stafford and the Rams win a Super Bowl. They win 5 games. Baker Mayfield starting games for him at the end of last year, right? Like the Browns, Baker Mayfield. Playoffs, competing with the Chiefs. Didn't win, but are competing with the Chiefs into the fourth quarter of a playoff game in Arrowhead. Baker, we'll see you later. Deshaun Watson comes in, suspended for 11 games. It's an abysmal season. Year to year, this league is very, very different. And so the view now is the Eagles are way up here. And now, like the Broncos, like Nathaniel Hackett was terrible. Ross is washed. Some of their younger pieces aren't developing as we thought. Jerry Jeudy's good, not quite special. Devontae Williams coming off an injury, right? So the thought process is Ross and everybody in Denver is way down here, and Philly's way up here. Philly wanted to move off Jalen Hurts. to move off Jalen Hurts and go for Russell Wilson. And you think it's crazy, go look at the numbers, right? At the time that they wanted to move off Jalen Hurts for Russell Wilson, it would have been a no-brainer. It would have been a lock it in, 100% we're doing it. And this goes to show you what different support, right? We're going to talk about NFL coach later, and that's why this rant is so pertinent today. Support and who is around you is so important. It's so important. So the Eagles almost move off Jalen Hurts for Russell Wilson. Instead, Russ then goes to Denver. Nathaniel Hackett's his coach. His only good running back gets hurt. 2 of his wide receivers before the season are hurt. 1 of them gets hurt in the season. Left tackle's hurt. Defense actually performed pretty well, but anybody that Russ is directly working with, it's falling apart all around him. They fire the coach, new staff this year, and then you flip the script and it's Jalen Hurts. They end up obviously sticking with Jalen Hurts because Russ vetoes that trade, and Jalen Hurts gets A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and 2 good backs and 2 Hall of Famers on the offensive line and the entire Georgia defense, it seems like. Good coaching staff, right? Both their coordinators get hired this year. It's crazy. One little choice, one little flip of a coin, if you will, one drop of the hat, and how much it can change. Because now you're talking, well, Jalen Hurts got paid. Jalen Hurts has a really nice contract now. It's fairly team-friendly. More backloaded, so once the salary cap goes up, yada, 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 it will be very proportionally team-friendly in terms of salary cap. But he's got this big, massive contract now. And Russ, conversely, also has this big, massive contract. But again, looked at very differently. Hurts, leader, grinder, gonna make that contract worth it, team-friendly. And then Russ, it's like, oh my God, if he has another bad year, are they going to be able to get out of it? Right? They don't have an out for another 2 years, right? They're already talking, Russ has only had 1 year in Denver. They're already talking about how to get out of the contract. It's insane how a couple decisions here and there can vastly change the landscape of the NFL. Right? So what if they trade Jalen Hurts and 2 firsts for Russell Wilson? So now Jalen and 2 firsts in Seattle. That's an interesting one. Are they still competitive? Is he better than Geno Smith? Does he work in that system? Does he go with Pete Carroll? Can he compete in that division? Maybe. And then Russ and Philly. Well, it's kind of a weird fit because he doesn't want to run as much as they wanted the offense to look like with Jalen, how it kind of was a running first offense, and Russ wanted to throw the ball more, and A.J. Brown's good, kind of similar to like a DK Metcalf body type, so does Russ maybe work with him, and it's a little bit different of a fit. One little decision. We now have Jalen Hurts, who appears to be on the trajectory to a top 5 quarterback, and Russ, who now needs Sean Payton, a Hall of Fame coach, to throw him a life raft and hopefully bring him back to at least an average NFL starter because he was bad last year. One decision. It's crazy how year to year and how environment dependent this league is. A calendar year, sometimes not even a full calendar year, can have such a massive impact on not only that year's results, but on legacies, on money, on teams' 5 to 10 year plans. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, that one decision changed the entire dynamic of the landscape for those 2 organizations. And I think
there's 3 organizations.
Denver, 3 organizations. And Seattle.
Denver, Philly, and Seattle.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, you answered it a little bit. I think Russell Wilson would have at least been a little bit better looking back on it.
Hindsight's Philly always than he would have been.
Yeah.
You would have to imagine he would be better in Philly.
I mean, with Sirianni,
with that roster, it's a better roster than Denver.
100%. 100%. And I think Denver was super, I want to say overinflated going into the season too. And then I think they relied too much on Russ. You said it best. He wouldn't have had to be the reliant factor in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He would have had the running game. He would have had weapons. He would have had a really good offensive line.
It's a good point.
All those things.
Is he as good as Jalen Hurts, though? That's the question. Like, would he have been as good as, because Jalen was an MVP-level player?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Jalen also got his opportunity from Russ. Russ not going to Philadelphia.
A huge opportunity.
I mean, Jalen should write him a thank you card.
Absolutely.
It got him a contract, and it allowed him to prove himself. That's all you can ask for in this league.
Well, this leads perfect into hit number 1 here. Let me pat myself on the back here. Let's go hits and misses. Hit number 1. Again, the Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson story. I said whenever Right, we were going into last season, NFL, everyone was all on the Jalen Hurts. I said, let's just relax a little bit. No, I was kind of wrong there. He ended up being really, really good. But I said, I don't even know if Philadelphia is sold on Jalen Hurts, right? They're drafting quarterbacks later rounds, right? They're signing veteran, signing Gardner Minshew as a backup. I said, watch for Gardner Minshew to start a game. He did end up starting a game, but like I said, the Eagles weren't even sold on Jalen Hurts. Obviously, they made a play for Russ. They wanted Russell Wilson. They were ready to move off Jalen Hurts, but Russ vetoed that trade. So to say Jalen Hurts was a no-brainer at that time last year would have been crazy. I've been saying that, so there we go.
Well, just the what-if factor on that is just so interesting to me. So interesting.
Yeah, talk about butterfly effect.
I know.
One decision.
One small decision, and then look at everything that comes out of that.
It's insane.
It's in the NFL, everything is amplified. Every small decision like that is always amplified. Especially they always say you give that one guy a chance one time, and they're going to take your spot.
Yeah, indeed. It's very, very possible.
100% that's the truth, especially with the Jalen Hurts thing. I mean, they gave him a chance. He might not have got that chance if Russ comes, but he got the chance, and now he's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league.
Absolutely, generational wealth. All right, Mr. Number 1 here. Generally speaking, I feel like we've been talking about how professional athletes, it's never been a smarter game in terms of football, but just professional athletes in general, right, with social media and all that, society kind of puts on athletes. So they've never been smarter. But how do NFL players keep messing this up? Stay off of FanDuel. I don't understand how this is very hard for them to understand. You're in the NFL. Quit betting on NFL games. It just baffles me. I've never understood how in the world, it is a very black and white rule. If you are in the facility, you cannot bet, period. Doesn't matter if it's on Russian table tennis. But when you are out of the facility, you can bet on anything that you want outside of the NFL. That is a very black and white rule.
Yeah,
and they still mess it up. I don't understand.
It's not difficult to understand. See, this just always, it gets me upset because even just for our boring, monotonous jobs that we have outside of here, there are rules to follow, right? And generally, if you want to keep your job and you want to continue making money, you follow those rules, especially when you have a platform and you have a job in the NFL. I mean, that's a top 0.00001% job. Not many people get that opportunity ever in a lifetime. And if you do have that opportunity, why would you screw it up by doing one of the small things in your contract that it says that you cannot do? I'm sorry, but if I have that job and they're like, oh, by the way, you can't drive a car anymore, I'd be like, well, I guess I'm taking up scootering because I'm not going to give up a job in the NFL because I'm not going to follow a simple task.
I'd be like, hey, Uber, you want to sponsor me?
Yeah, honestly, work out a deal.
All right, hit number 2 here. Both of the finals are going exactly how predicted, both the NBA and the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals. So, I said the Nuggets in 6 makes a ton of sense. And now, granted, it's tied at 1. I still think the Nuggets prevail. They've been a better team.
Yeah.
Even the game they lost, right? The Heat were really good for the first about 6 minutes and really, really good for the last 6. In between, Denver was a much better team. They just didn't pull it out. And then obviously I predicted Vegas, I think, in 6 as well. Or actually maybe in 7.
You said Vegas in 7.
I said it in 7?
Yeah.
All right, well, I mean, look, they're beating Florida 2-0. I think they're clearly the better team. I actually don't even know if it goes 7, but, both of the predictions are hanging tight.
100%. And after seeing such a boring conference finals, right, because I guess in basketball it kind of saved itself a little bit with that insane comeback, almost coming back from 3-0 down.
That was crazy.
But at least in hockey, I mean, those conference finals were snooze fests. I mean, anytime it's going to be a sweep like that in a big, in a big round of the playoffs, so it is good to see that rebound into the finals.
Yeah, I agree. Miss number 2 here. I think at the beginning of the year I said the Padres, right? They go get Soto. They re-signed him. They got some good pitching. Darvish. Musgrove. Machado's back. Tatis came back, right? Ha-Seong Kim's a really nice player. I said, look, I mean, that is arguably a top 3 to 4 roster in the bigs.
Easily.
At least. I said it'd be them and the Dodgers neck and neck, right? Battling for it. They're just not... There's clearly a disconnect between their talent and the ability to win. And I don't know what it is. Is it coaching? Maybe, but Bob Melvin's the coach. He's been around the league for a while now. Yeah. I mean, he's taken the A's, who never have any money, always have a worse roster than anybody in their division, anybody in their conference.
Huge lack of talent.
And they would get to the playoffs with him. So, I mean, he can win. He's a good coach. I don't know what. It seems like Now, this might be luck, or this just might be maybe focus. I don't know. Whenever the pitchers have a game, right, they'll let up like 1 run, the Padres won't score.
Yeah.
Or the Padres will put up like 9 and lose 10-9.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Because the pitchers implode.
They can never put together a full game on both sides of the baseball.
Well, this is what we were saying about the Pirates last week before they went and swept the Cardinals and won game 1 against the A's. But prior to that, it was always one side of the baseball will always be taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. At least you're either going to have an offensive explosion or you're going to shut them out. But when that happens, the other side of the baseball, the other side of the game has to pick up. It has to be able to match. Because what happens if you're in the bullpen? What happens if you're a pitcher for that organization now? You go out there and you've just chucked 2 games perfectly. Let up maybe 1, maybe 2 runs. And you're looking here at the offense. You're like, God, can we maybe score a run?
Right. It not only obviously provides a big problem for winning baseball games, that's a big problem in the locker room too, because now it's like a pointing fingers type thing. Next thing you know, you lose 9 straight, and you're like, hey, bullpen, your ERA over the last 9 is like 5.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, figure it out.
But
or they can look at the offense and be like, hey, why don't you score more than 2 runs? You know. So
averaging 2 runs a game,
right?
Leaving runners on base all over the place.
Right. Hit number 3 here. A story came out last week that Kyle Dubas might be hired as the president of hockey operations for the Pens.
Yeah.
I said it'd be a really good hire. I like the idea. What do you know? They go hire Kyle Dubas, president of hockey ops for the Pens now. To me, it's a breath of fresh air. Young guy.
Yep.
Right. And what I think this team needs, it's going to hurt, but I think they need to break up some of these core players and start getting some infusions of youth, right? Like, I like Malkin. I wouldn't hurt to see him go. I like Letang. I'll take a couple draft picks, right? Like, I think we need an infusion of youth. I think we need big sweeping changes and a new young face that can come in, stir the pot a little bit. He's not tied to any of these players. He hasn't been here. Like, he doesn't have any loyalty to them. It's not some guy that was promoted within that has to appease Mario or whatever the case may be. He can come in and do what he feels is right for the hockey team, and he rebuilt Toronto, and I think he can, I don't think it's a full reboot, but retool and regroup the Penguins to then make another run.
No, I agree, and I think that's necessary at this point. You need somebody who's going to look at it through an objective lens, right, and not be making decisions purely based on emotion just because you love the players and you've known them since you drafted them and you've seen them grow through the organization.
Right.
I feel like those things are good, but those things can also cloud judgment. And in a league like this, you have to be very quick to move. It's a business. Speaking to that a little bit, I would take calls on Letang for sure, and I would lean towards taking calls on Malkin. Now, I would try to, at some point, you have to appease the fan base because you still have to sell tickets. So I would maybe hold off on dealing Malkin as quickly. I would deal Letang for sure, but I would definitely hold on to Crosby, Malkin possibly. But if you get a hell of a deal for Malkin, you got to take it.
I would say it's give me Gensel, give me Sid, and give me like a Ricard Raquel or somebody kind of younger. Maybe Brian Rust. I don't know age-wise. I think Raquel might be younger. I would take Gensel, Crosby, pick your next best player. Rust, Raquel, one of those.
And maybe a defensive guy.
Everybody else is on the table.
Yeah.
Here's my 4 guys. Can't touch them. Everybody else take them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Goalies included. We don't have a good enough goalie right now. I'd take a call on either goalie.
We need a goalie anyway, and we have a couple in AAA.
Yeah.
So also, Dubas was almost hired as the GM. So
I think he's going to do a ton of GM type stuff.
Right, he'll have a role in that, but I was just surprised to see him be president of hockey operations instead of.
Yeah, I think he's that type of leader. So we'll see.
I like it.
Mr. Number 3 here. I really thought that the Live Tour was going to succeed. I figured it would be kind of a hit. There was just too much funding, too much star power for it not to work in my eyes.
Yeah.
And maybe they still might, but it's going to be only with the PGA's help now. A story out that they have agreed to a merger. It's like the PGA, the Live, and there's like one other like smaller golf organization that's also going to join. I think it's going to benefit the overall game of golf. Right?
I think so too.
I'm not a huge golf guy anyway. Right, I'll watch the big ones, the Masters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll hurt. We kind of called the Live being successful. It's not as successful as we thought. They're going to need the PGA's help, so that's a miss on our part.
Yeah, like you said, with the financial backing from the Saudis like they had and all those huge groups that just have more money than you could even wrap your head around, I thought it would be a little more successful as a standalone league.
Yeah.
But I think the combination of the two, right now you're going to see those matchups again that everybody thought they lost. And I think that's important, especially when you're trying to figure out who is the best, right? Because when you have so many talented guys going to a
always
different
the best
league,
in the PGA, or
right?
he's the best
You can.
in the league.
It's really hard to then make those comparisons and be like, okay, so who's the greatest golfer of the decade? If both of these leagues are around for a decade and they're both uber successful, well, then you're going to have that argument between the two because you've never seen them face off against each other.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good, just for the overall spirit of golf, we'll say.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at all the major sports; they all have one big league, really, right?
Yeah.
Like NFL.
I think there can
NBA.
only be one big league.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right way to do it. Guys, don't go anywhere. We appreciate you listening for the first segment. We're going to do some predictions for some NFL rookies and some comps for their careers coming up, so don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. It's The Issue. Thursday the 8th. June's flying by. If you blink, you might miss it. Go get some of the summer merch. It's starting to get hot. Pools are open. Memorial Day was what? Last week? 2 weeks ago? Whatever. So pools are open. Go get your cutoffs. Go get your T-shirts. Get ready for the beach. Go check it out. It's all in the description of this episode, no matter where you're listening. Bios of every possible thing you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
If you can't find it, then you're just not looking. So.
Yeah, if you can't find it, welcome to the 21st century. This is how links work. It's everywhere. Check it out. Last time I checked, we do have cutoffs in the store. So go get them. Our merch drop lasts until June 22nd, and then we will ship everything out. So you got the month. I would say jump on it early. That way we can get the numbers in and get you guys your merchandise. So thanks for stopping by. This segment's going to be good, though. We are going to go through some NFL draft picks from 2023, from this draft, and we're going to give them comps to guys that are already in the NFL, have played in the NFL, and just kind of give you an outlook, a projection, if you will, on what you can expect from some of these players. Because, I mean, this draft we've talked about it. It's been some very unexpected moves. People have gone up and down. Some people slid. Some people were, a little bit of a reach. So now is kind of a good time where we can sit down and really kind of plan out what their career might look like.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the quarterbacks. I think that's kind of the big one there. People want to see what are the quarterbacks going to be like. So let's start with Bryce Young. Now, this is going to seem like an easy one, but Kyler Murray, now let me explain why. Yeah. First of all, yes, the undersized. Both have a special arm, right? For their size, you're like, wow, that's a weirdly good arm for their size, right? And they're both beautiful, elegant throwers of the football. Both are mobile, but don't rely solely on it, right? Both are better from the pocket and better when they can make plays and keep their eyes downfield to extend plays for their arm, not necessarily abandon the pocket just to run.
Sure.
I think sometimes Lamar, as soon as it's not there, it's down and he's gone, right? Cam had that quality too. If it wasn't there, it was down, it's gone. I think Kyler and Bryce are dynamic enough, but still stay in the pocket, stay within the structure and the hope of the play, which is to get a ball downfield.
Which, I mean, we've seen countless times. How many times have you seen Kyler scramble? He more so uses his legs to scramble to find space to throw the football rather than scramble to try to get yardage. Yeah,
and if need be, they can both get yardage. I will also say, now Kyler is a little young to determine this now, but I don't think either of them are 10-year NFL players. I think both of them are going to have about a 4 to 5 year prime, and it's going to be very early, right? Bryce Young, right after, he'll probably have a rookie season that is like very average, right? Like Kyler did.
Yeah.
And then second season, he's going to pop off. He's going to come onto the scene and be a top 10 to 12 guy.
No, yeah.
And maintain that for about 3 to 4 years, and then he's going to fall back off because of injuries and stuff like that.
Right. I don't see him being a guy coming into the first year and totally lighting things on fire and reshaping the landscape of the NFL. So he's going to be more of a slow burn.
He'll be good. He'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. CJ Stroud. Mark Sanchez. This is one that you had.
Yes.
I don't think it's crazy, right? So CJ Stroud and Mark Sanchez, both California kids, both go to national powers in college.
Yep.
And what is Mark Sanchez? Within the structure of the offense, he's accurate, he's a leader, he's a grown-up, he's gonna do the right thing in the room.
Yeah.
All you're hearing out of camp right now, Case Keenum comes out, CJ is a veteran in the room. If I didn't know any better, I think he'd been there for 4 or 5 years, and he's bounced around the league. He's been in the NFL locker room for 5 years now. He's super accurate.
Which are all great things.
That's all you're hearing out of Houston. Those are all great things.
Yeah.
But neither of them are dynamic. Neither of them are going to make the Patrick Mahomes play, right? CJ Stroud's not going to get out and rip off 80 yards run like a Justin Fields is, right? Because, that's an easy comparison to Ohio State, but I think Stroud is a much more pocket-bound quarterback as opposed to Fields, who I think his only attribute that keeps him in the league right now is his ability to get outside of the pocket.
I think so too.
I think it's a good comparison there. And I don't think either of them, same thing with Bryce Young and Kyler, I don't think either of them are starters in 12 years.
Yeah.
I don't think C.J. Stroud's a starter in 12 years in the league.
Yeah.
I think he's about 7 to 8 years. Kind of like a Sam Darnold. He might bounce around as a backup for 3-4 years, then he's done.
Yeah. Sam Darnold would have been a good comp too. I think none of the quarterbacks taken in this class, we're going to get to some more. I don't think any of them are going to be really like generational talents. This isn't a QB draft class where you're going to look back and go, "Oh my God, Bryce Young, what a pickup that was." Like, no, I don't see it being like that. And for that reason, it's going to be Mark Sanchez. That's why I see that comparison.
I agree. Let's go Anthony Richardson. I see a lot of Jameis Winston. The upside's there. The talent is there.
But he's going to make the mistakes.
The mistakes are also going to be there.
Yeah.
And I think Anthony Richardson, now Cam Newton is also a comp that came to mind. I don't think he's going to be quite as dynamic of a runner as Cam. And look, Cam in his prime could deliver the football. Let's be real.
Sure.
Now, it was only for about 2 years. And then some inconsistency started hitting, right? But I don't think he's going to be as good of a thrower as Cam was. And Jameis right now is not consistent enough, not accurate enough for me to think that Anthony Richardson, that fits the mold, right? He's not going to be accurate. He's not going to be consistent enough. More Jameis, more interceptions. Also, you're going to get the touchdowns. You're going to get some of the spectaculars, some of the good runs.
Yeah.
Both big, strong athletes, down south, Florida guys. Makes a ton of sense.
But like you said, at the end of the day, Jameis Winston still does have a cannon arm. And you're going to be able to see those
Jameis
throws.
can start in this league. I'm just saying that right now.
I think so too. I think there's a couple quarterbacks that he's better than. I think I'd rather have him than Baker Mayfield if we're going to get into it. But
100%.
Here's the thing: you're gonna get the risk taking with Anthony Richardson. So in turn, you're going to get a little more mistakes. But if he can play like we think he can, and he can have the upside that the Colts see in him, I think it could end up balancing itself out. I mean, let's not forget, Josh Allen was a guy like that. He came in, took a lot of risks, threw a lot of interceptions. But he had the spectacular, and he had the arm power, and he made the great throws to back it up.
We're going to have to do another discussion about this, because now I'm curious who else you would take over Jameis Winston. We'll get into it. We'll do that another time. All right, Will Levis, I think Jay Cutler. I think that's both big, strong, massive arms, right? Like, where they throw and you're like, whoa, wait, that doesn't look like the rest of the league, right?
Sure.
Like, maybe, like, Will Levis, there's stronger arms in the league, right? I think Josh Allen and I think Herbert, they have stronger arms. But that release, that quick release, that whip-like arm that Levis has, very similar to Jay Cutler, who had a really quick release, really strong arm.
Yeah.
And I don't think both of them were kind of a little bit too much into themselves a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like I saw a drill from Levis in practice, just kind of went through the motions. Like it was like where you go through, I don't even know, like the pads, and you do like high knees over it, like while the quarterback has
it. Like step up.
Yeah, I'm not a football coach. I don't know what the hell that's called, but yeah, you know what I mean. Like step back. So he does it, and then there's one where he's like back to the target. He does it, and then you just turn around real quick, make a throw. His feet weren't even set. His feet were looking at the sideline. He's trying to make a throw like the other way. Like, dude, set your feet. What are we talking about here? This is 8th grade stuff.
Right.
So I don't see him being a very successful starter. He will be a starter, and I think for about 10 years. But I don't think he'll be a franchise guy. I think he's going to be a bounce around the league, 3 year at each stop type of guy.
Kind of
like
run a quarterback type of deal.
Yeah, because Cutler was in what? Where was he? He was in Denver.
Chicago.
He even stopped in Miami for a little bit. So I think it's going to be kind of like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's not a guy that I really even thought of until you brought him up. And that is a good comparison.
Let me also throw this out there. Jay Cutler's made a lot of money. Jay Cutler had a 10-year productive NFL career.
Yeah.
Let's not act like Jay Cutler is a bad. If I told you tomorrow you could be Jay Cutler,
I'd be Jay Cutler.
Sign me up. There's my signature right there. Like I'm in. Like no problem.
Yeah.
Right. Like so, it's not the worst thing in the world.
No, it makes sense.
All right, Peter Skoronski. I see a ton of Quentin Nelson.
Now
I know Skoronski is technically a tackle, but I think he projects more as a guard, which Nelson is. Both solid in pass rush blocking, better opening up holes for the run game, which is perfect for Tennessee. Which is perfect for Tennessee. So I think if Tennessee gets a Quentin Nelson level player, they'll be a happy guy.
Absolutely, and let's not forget, Derrick Henry has kind of taken steps back as we've seen the offensive line take steps back, right? He needs that help, especially as he gets a little older now. He's not breaking as many tackles. He's not having as many huge breakaway runs. So having a guy that's just going to go in there and level a defensive line so you can run the ball and just average 5 to 6 to 7 yards a carry every single time, that's going to win you games. That's going to take the pressure off of Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee.
Yeah. Or Will Levis.
Or Will Levis if he steps up
young
into
guy.
it. But either way, you need that offensive line piece.
All right, let's go with Jahmyr Gibbs. I see a ton of Dalvin Cook. I know a lot of people were saying Alvin Kamara. I don't think he's quite as dynamic catching the football as Alvin Kamara, but I do think he's better at running between the tackles like a Dalvin Cook is.
Yeah.
Like Dalvin Cook, for his size, doesn't get a ton of credit for this. It's actually really good between the tackles, much like Christian McCaffrey is, right? They can find the hole, accelerate past the linebackers, get into the secondary really quickly, going between the tackles because they are a little smaller, a little shiftier. I see a ton of that with Jahmyr Gibbs, so I'll go Dalvin Cook.
I like that. And he's a very shifty guy, very quick and decisive about his runs.
Yeah. I think a very one-cut type and get upfield.
But like you said, it's really tough to compare the excellence of being able to both run the ball and be a great receiving back like Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan Addison, I see a ton of Cooper Kupp. Neither of them are the biggest guy. Neither of them are the fastest guy. Neither of them are the strongest guy.
Yep.
Neither of them have the best hands. But it seems like just play in and play out. They're just always open. Mm-hmm. They're just always open.
Yep.
It's the top of the route. There's that little bit of nuance. There's that little bit of trickery that they just get open at the top of the route. They create enough misdirection and some confusion, and they just get open consistently.
Yeah, if we could have more guys on this graphic, I would say a Julian Edelman, I would say a Chris Hogan, because these are all guys that, and you know how annoying that can be, especially as a Pittsburgh fan like we are.
Oh, yeah, the
thorn
guys
in the side of just those guys that you're like, how do they get that open? They're not that fast. They're not that shifty, but they just find a way to get open every single play, and they are always reliable catching the ball.
You go, I guess, if you want to go older comps, like an Eric Decker. If you remember him for the Broncos back when Peyton Manning was throwing to him.
Yeah.
Like just those guys that are just, why are they open all the time?
It gets annoying.
You could even say Devontae Adams. No, I think Devontae's got better hands than he gets credit for.
He's got better speed, though.
He's got quickness. I don't know, speed.
Yeah.
He's not. You don't think of Devontae like, oh, he's just going to flat run
He's
by
not
you
going to be
like
a Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, so there's some comps there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle from the Dallas Cowboys. I see a ton of Grady Jarrett, the pass rusher from Atlanta, in him.
Yeah.
Big, strong guys who kind of for a year take their time, more of a run-stopping guy, going to start developing their bag pass rushing. But then you look up in 3 years and you're like, wow, he's actually really productive. Nothing flashy, 14 sacks a year. He's never going to lead the league, but he's never going to be. He's always going to be somewhere between 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere there in sacks, 14 to 16 sacks a year type of guy. And I think what the interesting thing is Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator in Dallas, was the head coach in Atlanta when Grady Jarrett kind of made his emergence. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a Cowboys fan, I would be excited about this type of comp.
Yeah, especially in a division with the Eagles and in a division with, the Commanders, and it's kind of
maybe not the Commanders, but
you just go get after
the
quarterbacks.
Giants. Yeah, but the Giants can run the football, so
sure.
I mean, it's a good idea to have.
Sure, but if you can go get after the quarterback, if you can make Daniel Jones uncomfortable,
we know, yes.
If you can make whoever's going to start in Washington uncomfortable, because we know that's just going to be a tire fire, and if you can find a way to throw Jalen Hurts off, I mean, you need to if you're Dallas. You need to.
No, I would agree.
You need a division win one of these years.
I would agree. All right, let's go ahead and get in some news, guys.
All right, so story number 1 in the news here. So we got DeGrom was just placed on the 60-day IL. Kind of tough news for the Rangers.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've been playing as good as anybody in baseball right now. You could argue they're a top 3 team. I think they might have the best record, but I mean, sometimes records can be deceiving. But I still think they're a top 3 team in baseball. Corey Seager's been fantastic since coming off I think he was on the 10-day IL. Semion's been good. They've been getting Jonah Heim's been a really nice catcher for this team as well. Thank you very much. But they've been getting production from all over the lineup, and the pitching staff has been good enough. It's been probably top half of the league, maybe closer to half than the very top. But without DeGrom, then it becomes probably a slightly below average staff. Yeah,
and you're looking at trouble, especially because you're starting to get into the months now, right? You're in June. June moves by pretty quick.
Yeah.
This should be when you're catching your stride. If you're going to be a team that's going to compete, I mean, yeah, you can still afford to have a couple bad series down here and there, but I mean, 60 days without DeGrom is going to be tough, and I mean, that puts you to the end of July.
So that's basically a third of the season, right? So the season's 162 games.
Yeah.
right? Roughly speaking, you break that up, like 50-ish games is a third of the season.
Yeah.
Right? So missing 60 days, that's about, I don't know, we'll just ballpark 52 games.
Right.
That's almost a third of your season.
Yeah, it's not great.
And so that's when you need to be hitting your stride, right? So we've already been through a little bit over a third of the season. Now we have the second third of the season. This is where you can put yourself, you can either like not solidify your playoff spot, but basically solidify that unless you fall off a cliff, you're in a good spot to be.
Yeah, and you
right?
can
Like,
at least compete, battle for something, for a spot.
Yeah, like unless you have a monumental collapse and you are well under 500 for the last third, you're going to make the playoffs, right? And that's kind of where the Rangers, that's where they've set themselves up in the first third of the season, where as long as they're average the rest of the way, they should be okay.
They can kind of go on
as long as they're
control.
slightly above 500 the rest of the way, they should be fine.
But this doesn't look good.
This doesn't look good.
All right, story number 2, we're going to move to college football. So the SEC will keep the 8 conference game format in the season, even as they expand and add Texas and add Oklahoma. So you're still going to have the same amount of conference games, more teams. Now, my thoughts on this, I kind of wish they maybe added another conference game. Just because you look at the SEC, it's the most competitive conference in football, in college football. I'd like to see those teams play each other a little bit more, because I feel like a lot of times SEC teams get the benefit of the doubt. They get a really, really easy schedule.
So hear me out.
Especially Alabama.
2 options in my eyes. One, well, so here, let's start here. I think there should be a 10-game conference schedule out of 12.
Okay.
And I think if you're going to still stay, we'll stay with the current format where the ADs basically make their own schedules, right? You know, you have to, there's a certain set of rules, right? How many conference games you have to have, whatever. The home and home contract, stuff like that you have to abide by. But outside of that, you kind of make your own schedule with the other ADs, right? With the conference. So if you want to maintain that, 10 conference games only allows you 2 non-conference games. That only allows you 2 cupcakes. Now you can strategically schedule those. If you want to start with a conference game, if you want to start on the road at Alabama, that's on you. And then you could throw your cupcake games in week 8 when you really need one, right?
Yeah.
Or week 12 at the end where you're like, we need to win for a bowl game if you're Vandy or whatever. Let's schedule East Tennessee Tech or something.
Yes.
And you just blow the doors off when you make a bowl game.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a different strategy. Or maybe you throw the easy games at the beginning as a warm-up, and then you do 10, but then you have 10 grueling conference games to end the season. So I think with that adds some more strategy to the schedule making and to what the schedule ends up being.
I do like that.
Or I was going to say you just have an actual governing body that makes the schedule like every other league that's ever existed ever.
Yeah, that would make sense. But
maybe for every other billion-dollar organization and billion-dollar industry has some sort of governing body that overlooks everything.
I do like how the ADs kind of make it, though. I think that's kind of cool.
If so, then I think there should be more strategy.
There should
right?
be
Because
more
now,
conference games.
with 4 non-conference games, Alabama can warm up with Appalachian State and Tennessee State Tech. And then somewhere in week 8 they can throw in a Montana Technical Institute, and then
Southern Mississippi.
and then they can throw a Southern Miss at the end, and then they're fine. Like they can, it's too easy, right?
Yeah.
Make it a little harder, 10-game schedule. So you have to play 2 more SEC teams. That's no joke. And then you have to strategically place those 2 non-conference games.
100% agree. Speaking of Southern Miss, so we're going to transition now. Story number 3 is on college baseball, right? It's in full swing right now. Love college baseball. Love this time of year. So now we're finding out the regional winners, and we're looking forward into what that could look like. I know the games, most of them start on June 10th. So coming up like 2 days after this episode comes out.
Yeah, so we have the super regional set. You want me to run through them?
I have a couple right
you
here.
got 'em?
I just wanted to talk about this for a little bit because, I mean, we have some good matchups and things that I'm excited to see. So, like, you have a Wake Forest, Alabama.
Right.
You have a Kentucky LSU, which I think will be more competitive than some people think.
Yeah.
And then I think Florida and South Carolina will be really good. But then
I think that might be the best one.
I think that's going to be really, really interesting. But then this makes me excited for later after this next round of games, right? Because then you have a couple boring ones on here. You have Oregon and Oral Roberts. And you have Tennessee and Southern Miss. So, like, we know Tennessee's going to blow Southern Miss out of the water, right? And
So
I'd much rather
so
not watch Oregon or Oral Roberts. I'd rather watch.
This is perfect. So we have a ton of time. Let's go through this actually. So let's start at number 1 Wake and number 16 Alabama. Okay, so that starts June 9th or 10th. Yeah, that weekend, right?
Yeah.
That Friday or Saturday, those games will start. To me, Wake Forest is stacked, right? Their pitching staff is really good. They have a really, they outscored their opponents in the regional 48-7. So on both sides of the baseball, that's a damn good baseball.
Yeah, you're not concerned.
I don't mind Alabama. I think they maybe sneak by a win, but I think overall, they're best of 3 series, by the way. I think Wake wins that. Next, Stanford, Texas. Now, this one's interesting because Stanford is the national seed, right? They're the number 8 overall seed. But Texas is a really, really good baseball team. They had a tough start.
They always compete.
They end up sweeping West Virginia to end their season, who at the time West Virginia was number 6 in the country.
Yes.
They sweep them in the last weekend of Big 12 baseball. And an okay Big 12 tournament. And then stud, they go 3-0 in the Coral Gables regional. And now they're here. So, Stanford is a better team on paper.
But Texas has the momentum.
But Texas has the momentum. I'll take Texas.
I like Texas. I think that's going to be a really interesting one to watch, too. Stanford just shocked me this season, though.
Well, Stanford's got a scrappy lineup. Again, I'll take Texas, though. So, who are you taking? Let's do predictions. Why not?
I'll go Stanford.
So, who'd you take in the first? Are you taking Wake as well?
Yeah, I'm taking Wake, and then I'm taking Stanford.
Okay. All right. Let's break it. We haven't done this since NFL season. So, we're both taking Wake. You're taking Stanford.
Yep.
I'll take Texas.
Next
one. We have Tennessee at Southern Miss. I'll take Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee.
So right now we have one split.
So Tennessee, to me, they have the experience. They had a slightly down year from last year, but still, last year was an all-level. That was a program best type season. So just their down year, they're still a very, very good baseball team. LSU and Kentucky. So I'm riding with LSU. Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, those are probably 2 of the top 3 draft picks. Talent wins in college baseball, point blank.
I'm going Kentucky.
Okay.
They have the momentum. That's my team right now. I'm riding with them. They impressed me what they were able to do against WVU, and then with their backs up against the wall, be able to beat Indiana 2 straight after. I think they lost 6-4 to Indiana. Then they went to play WVU 110-0 against the WVU team,
twice,
and then they beat Indiana 16-6 in the same day that they beat WVU 10-0. They went and played that doubleheader, won by 10 in both games, and then went on and beat Indiana 4-2.
Definitely impressive.
So look, they're a good team. They're a good team, and they have some momentum.
Okay, that's fair. All right, what about Florida, South Carolina?
Give me Florida.
I'm going to go South Carolina.
Oh, we have 3 splits already. If only NFL season was this easy.
Yeah, I like South Carolina. I like Ethan Petrie. Their freshman bat. All right, Virginia at Duke. I'll take Virginia. Yeah. UVA, I think, is a deeper team, more experienced team. Now, Duke's going to make some noise. I'll take Duke to win that. I think it's going to be a close one, but I'll take UVA.
Fair enough.
Oregon at Oral Roberts. Or I guess Oregon versus Oral Roberts.
I'm going to go Oregon.
All right, I'll go Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts they won 48 games this year. One of the best teams in baseball, if you actually.
Yeah, but who are they playing?
That's fair enough. But they made quick work of that regional. They played really, really well in the regional.
Sure.
All right, TCU versus Indiana State.
TCU, please.
You take TCU?
Yeah. It's a solid baseball school.
We need a 5th split. I'll go with Indiana State.
Wow.
I'll go Indiana State. Underrated. TCU's coming in, kind of feeling themselves a little bit. I'll take Indiana State to kind of upset there. So I'm taking Oral Roberts as an upset, Indiana State as an upset. I'll take South Carolina as an upset, and I'll take Texas as an upset. You're going to take the favored Stanford Cardinals. You're going to take the underdog Kentucky. You're going to take the favored Florida Gators, and then you'll take Oregon favored and TCU favored.
I like it.
All right, love it. So a little college baseball for you guys. We don't talk a ton of college baseball unless we have one of our college baseball guests on, but it is nice to kind of talk a little bit about baseball, and we'll have one of those guests on pretty soon here, hopefully, to kind of talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, as we get into the later rounds of this, I definitely think we should have 1 or 2 of them on if we could swing it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
I think it would be good. But that's all we have for the news. Stick around. 3rd segment is coming up. We're going to rank the top 10 coaching staffs in the NFL going into this season. And then we're going to round out the show with a little bit of a discussion on Mac Jones in New England. What do they look like this season? And what can they expect from, I'd say, an underwhelming quarterback at the helm? Let's go. Third segment on Thursday, June 8th. Got a pretty good one here for you guys. We've been teasing it all episode. It's going to be our top 10 coaching staffs in the NFL. So not just head coaches. We all know the importance of offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators to NFL teams. Buffalo with Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
We saw him leave, and the effects from that were felt all throughout the team, all throughout the offense. So I feel like it really matters who your coordinators are, just aside from head coaches. As staff as a whole is what we're looking at today. So we're going to rank those first, and then to finish out the segment, we will have a little discussion on Mac Jones in New England. Just doesn't look great there.
I want to throw it out there. We're going to throw out. I have 2 honorable mentions. Actually, we'll go 3 honorable mentions so people don't get their panties in a wad here.
Yeah, that's good.
Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, right? I like their defensive coordinator. I like Zach Taylor a lot. But there are games where they get outcoached by some of the better teams, right? Like even Pittsburgh, who has been a roster with less talent than Cincinnati the last couple of years, been outcoached by Pittsburgh. I'd like to a little honorable mention to Jacksonville. Doug Peterson's done a great job turning it around. I just need to see the next step. That's why they're not on this list. And finally, the Giants with Brian Daboll. Same thing. It's only happened for a year, and I really like Wink Martindale, their DC.
Yeah.
So they have the pieces in place. Just got to see another year.
Well,
and at the end of the day, they're still around a 500 team. So it's we'll see.
And we haven't seen Daboll as a head coach for all that long. So
we do have. I mean, we have some other young coaches here, but ones that are also have better supporting casts.
And they're proven, and they've won more.
That's fair.
As of late.
That's fair.
But without further ado, let's go. Top 10 coaching staffs in the NFL as they sit today, and number 10.
I got to start with the Ravens. I think John Harbaugh is a very, very good coach, especially culture-wise. They're just never bad. No matter, you can throw in. Here's how you know you have a good staff and a good culture in place. Can you miss your star quarterback? Backup goes in, wins 3 or 4.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what Baltimore's done over the last couple of years with Tyler Huntley. Right, really good culture, always fundamentally sound. They're not going to beat themselves a ton. Now, are they super dynamic, young, flashy coaches? No. But do they get the job done? Absolutely, Ravens at 10.
Yeah, anytime you see them on the schedule, you never think it's going to be a cakewalk. No. It's never easy against the Ravens, no matter who you are. And I think a lot of that is due to the schemes from that coaching staff.
Yeah, and I think this is also why they've had a rivalry with the Steelers, because the Steelers are at 9, just one slot above. I just think Tomlin's a slightly better coach than Harbaugh. I think he provides a little bit more on one side of the ball. I think Tomlin to the defense is very important. I think John's more of a walk-around coach. I think the extra value that Tomlin provides is why they're a slot higher, because I don't like the Steelers' offensive and defensive coordinator much at all. DC's okay. Offensive coordinator, we want Canada gone as fast as humanly possible.
It's been a revolving door at offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh.
It's been bad. And that's why they're at 9. That's why they're not higher. Because Tomlin's a two-time Super Bowl winner. He should be higher. But he's not. Or one time.
We have 1.
But still.
Either way,
Super Bowl. He should be higher.
He's been to 2, won one of them. But
been to a bunch of playoffs, but yeah.
Yeah, and always had the Steelers above 500. Always a winning team under Tomlin.
Yeah, no, they're a very good, solid team. I think solid is 9. Yeah, solid feels right. 8, the Titans. I think Mike Vrabel is the most underrated head coach in football. If he had a better supporting cast, I think the Titans would be number 3. I think Mike Vrabel is that good. You look at games they just have no business being in. They just go in and throttle teams. That playoff run that they had in 2019, 2020?
It was 2020.
Where they went and all the way to the AFC Championship game. Wildly impressive. So yeah, them. They're at 8. There's just no special at the coordinator positions. There's just no special whatsoever there.
No, not. I think the coordinators and the dispersion of them is super dense towards the top. So the teams at the top of this list, I feel have all the good
coordinators.
Ones. And this year is going to be the year where some of these guys start to prove themselves, because there has been a lot of turbulence in the coordinator community in this offseason. But yeah, Mike Vrabel, always a good coach, always smart, always seems to make playoff runs when least expected too. The Tennessee Titans have never been world beaters or anything, but they are always competing for something.
Yeah, 100%.
Always.
Number 7, the Eagles. I love Nick Sirianni. If they had retained one or both of their coordinators, they'd be a lot higher. But no Shane Steichen, no Jonathan Gannon. So now you have turnover on both offensive and defensive staffs. The only one that remains is Sirianni, so that's a lot of turnover for me to put them higher. But nonetheless, they did just make a Super Bowl. We're dynamic on both sides of the ball, so you got to give them their flowers.
It would be a crime to leave Sirianni off this list.
Yeah.
And what he's been able to do culture-wise and building a culture, that's another thing you have to look at. How are you gelling with the team, and can you get the team to come to a consensus and move forward with that identity? He's been able to do that in Philadelphia in a very short amount of time. So, I mean, I really don't fear that the coordinators that are going to be under him this year are going to be all that
I don't
bad.
think they're going to be bad.
No.
They just might not be as special, at least year one, as the other ones were.
Right.
All right, Patriots at 6. So I know what you're saying. Like, what? Like they had, awful coordinators last year. Yeah, so they actually go out and get a real offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien, who, don't kid yourself, Bill O'Brien's a real coordinator, right? When he was the head coach in Houston, they won the division like 6 years in a row.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, the man can coach. He's a really, really good offensive mind. I mean, look, Deshaun Watson's best years were all under him. He's been a really nice coordinator at Alabama in the past. Right? I mean, the man knows what he's doing. And so with that addition of just the offensive coordinator combined with Bill Belichick's defensive abilities and what the offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien's going to be able to do to Mac Jones' progression, that's why they're at 6 on this list.
I think that'll really help. We're going to talk about Mac Jones a little bit later in the show, but I mean, we've always kind of banged on him for not being all that special, for being very limited. I think with the right coordinator, and this is true with any young quarterback, we've seen it happen 100 times, and I'm excited to see what happens this year with the Chargers and Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
right?
with Kellen Moore.
What are you going to do with a new OC? A lot of times they can elevate that quarterback play.
Yeah.
So watching Mac Jones over the next 2 to 3 seasons, I think is going to be very telling of this OC.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go with the Seahawks at 5. First of all, Pete Carroll. I mean, the job that he's able to do, what he's able to do relating to young players, which more and more in the league nowadays, you have to have young talent, right? 'Cause you either have to have a quarterback that's making good money and you got to hit on a ton of draft picks to stay young and cheap everywhere else, or you got to have a stacked roster like the Niners and then have a cheap quarterback. Right? So what he was able to do with a very, very young core, which is the direction of the league, is it's Hall of Fame stuff. It's Hall of Fame level stuff. He's won a Super Bowl. Shane Waldron is the offensive coordinator.
Sure.
He is a very, very good offensive coordinator. It's a good staff. Defense has taken a ton of steps in the last couple of years.
You were able to win with Geno freaking Smith.
Geno Smith, yeah.
So
you get a ton of credit there.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. All right, number 4 is the Niners. We got a little NFC West run here. Look, Kyle Shanahan. I don't think there's a ton else. I think he's the best offensive mind in football.
Easily.
Andy Reid's up there.
Andy Reid's up there, but Shanahan, I think, has the
Most
new
clever.
infusion of youth to the game, too. I think he's brought a new system that everybody's kind of started to adopt.
He's also the best at running the football and going play action off of running the football.
Yeah, he's very old school and very methodical in how he moves the ball downfield.
I don't think it's an offense that ever goes out of style.
No, it's not, because
the way he does it.
If you can run the football like he likes to run the football,
and
you can punch
if
you can punch the team in the mouth and just wear them down, play after play after play of getting hit in the face with a run game like that, and then go over the top and have a quarterback that can make those type of throws and run off play action as well, is going to be huge.
Special, yeah. All right, the Rams at 3. I really, really like McVay, and they've had some consistency on their staffs, which is good as everybody comes back. Right, Stafford gets healthy, not a ton of turnover on the offensive side of the football. Defense, there's going to be some turnover, but that's fine. They'll be, whatever. It's fine.
They'll be just fine.
It's an offensive league. They're going to score. Right? It's Stafford, McVay, very good offensive staff. So
and then you have so many defensive leaders as players on the defensive side of the ball. Right? You have an Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Right. So, and even leaders at the linebacker position. You're going to be just fine.
They'll be good. They'll be fine. All right. This is going to be the hot take. This is going to be where we're going to get ripped. I know it. Miami at 2.
Yeah.
Miami at 2. So first of all, I think Mike McDaniels is already a top 5 mind in the league. Period.
He's very similar to Kyle Shanahan in my mind.
He came from Shanahan, so that makes sense.
Right, not on the same level yet, but like the same
level,
the same
like
feel, the same
genius.
swagger about him too.
It's like the level of like offensive evil genius that they're just a step ahead all the time.
Yeah, and I think something has to be said for the relationship that he's been able to build with Tua as well. I mean,
100%.
we've all heard the mic'd up videos from the sideline this past year, and it just. You don't see that too often.
He's able to infuse a ton of confidence into Tua, and you've seen what it's been able to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator is massive. I think he's going to be a top 3 DC in the league. I really do. And number 1, the Chiefs. First of all, Andy Reid, who is probably the best coach in football right now, head coach-wise. Steve Spagnuolo. Now, they never have like a top 10 defense, but it always seems like they play better than they are when it counts.
Yeah.
Or like fourth quarter defense, the Chiefs are always like top 5 or 6, right? Mm-hmm. That's where it matters. So having those two veterans, the staples, right? Andy Reid and Spags. Now, they lose Bieniemy, but I think they'll be fine. They'll be able to recover. But Spags and Andy Reid, that is a really, really good duo at the top.
You got Mahomes. I mean, if you can't find an offensive coordinator,
he's like a coach on the field.
They can't think something up with Patrick Mahomes, and you have the wrong OC. Fire him week 1, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes has to be the most coachable guy in the league to start off with,
probably,
and also the most uber talented, can do anything for you. You don't have to worry all that much about the play breaking down.
Fair enough.
As long as it's designed in the right way.
10-1: Ravens, Steelers, Titans, Eagles, Patriots, Seahawks, Niners, Rams, Dolphins, and Chiefs. You can see it on your screen.
That's a good list.
I think it's a good list, too. I think the good honorable mentions, right? The Bengals, the Jags, and the Giants, those are good honorable mentions. Probably teams I would actually even predict to slide onto this list, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, guys, it's time to get into some talk on Mac Jones and the Patriots. We've all seen what's gone on in New England in this past, 1 to 2 years now?
Right, so obviously last year, down year for the Patriots, down year for Mac Jones, right? So, but here's the interesting thing. You look his rookie year when he had a competent coordinator and full faith of the staff, right? He started all 17 games, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, pass rating of 93, completed 67.5% of his throws. So you think it's crazy. Like, that's not that good. I mean, you look up numbers, that's like Matt Ryan's career.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, those aren't bad stats at all. It's very competent, very, probably not. He made the Pro Bowl as like a replacement or whatever. Probably not a Pro Bowl level season, but a very solid B to B plus season. And then you give him, no offense, but like utter hot garbage on the offensive staff.
Yes.
No faith. You're starting a 6th round rookie Bailey Zappi a couple games over him. What do you know? He's 14 touchdowns, 11 picks, pass rating of 85. So it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you have bad coaching, when you don't have any faith from the staff. So I'm not saying Mac Jones is a world beater, because he's not, right? He's a little bit limited physically. Good arm, not special. Can't really move around a ton. Not a ton of off-script, off-schedule stuff. But it's reasonable to say that with a real offensive coordinator this year, he's going to take a step up.
Yeah.
He's going to probably go back to, like, I think, if you're looking at his 2 seasons, which one is him, which one's the anomaly, right? I think 93-ish pass rating is him. I think that's Mac Jones. I don't think 85, pass rating, almost just as many interceptions as touchdowns. I don't think that's Mac Jones.
No, he's like super middle of the road. Like, I don't even know really how to describe it. He's definitely closer to the 93 side. I'd say closer to even lower 90s around there, but definitely not as low as an 85. I think he could definitely be elevated by some better pieces on the offense. I think the new coaching staff is going to be huge for him. You see him return a little bit to what we think he can do and what we think he will do throughout his career. But, I mean, you can't be expected to play and do well in a league like the NFL, in a very, very ultra-competitive AFC, while you have severely lacking weapons.
So ask yourself this. There's teams around the league right now. If you had Mac Jones, how much better would they be? San Francisco. If you had Mac Jones tomorrow, how much better off do you think you'd be?
It'd be better.
Like, we can all say that, like, oh, this Brock Purdy thing, this, Brock Purdy that. Like, I think Mac Jones would be a much better quarterback. Like, Mac Jones is a more talented quarterback than Brock Purdy.
At least for this season. I'm not saying, like, long-term in San Francisco. But, above who they're going to start this year.
He's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. Like, let's cut the shit, all right?
I agree.
Like, Brock Purdy, he's fine. But, like, the ball dies. Like, Mac Jones has some zip. He has some oomph. He has some it. Not a ton, but more than Brock Purdy. So, I mean, Washington, are you really going to roll with Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell? Or would you go with Mac Jones?
Okay, I would go with Mac Jones, but you're going to see Mac Jones be way more successful in San Francisco if you're looking at those two teams, because he actually has some pieces around him.
Let's just compare the team at hand and then the Patriots.
Okay,
you would have better weapons in Washington.
Yeah, you would have better weapons.
Much better weapons. He doesn't have anybody Terry McLaurin's level.
No, yeah.
Nobody even, Curtis Samuel's or number 2?
Yeah.
The Jahan Dotson, they drafted him. It's a good top 3.
Right.
Actually, I think Samuel's gone. I think he's with, is he with Carolina now? Doesn't matter. I know Jahan Dotson's there too. Just those 2 guys alone would be significantly better than whatever he has in New England.
I agree with that.
Baker in Tampa?
Dude, no. Yeah, I would take...
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin?
I would take Mac Jones all day.
And I think Mac Jones would take that all day. I don't think it's crazy. Like, he's not... People, I'm not saying that he's a top 10, probably not even top 15 guy.
Yeah.
But to say that he's like the 25th best quarterback is just insane.
What about whoever's starting in Arizona?
I would take Mac Jones. Keep firing him at me.
Atlanta.
I would take Mac Jones.
How about Daniel Jones?
I would take Mac Jones.
You would
at
take
the number that they're at right now.
You would take Mac Jones. Okay, so you're factoring in contract, obviously.
I would say with a guy like that, most cases, not really. If it's like close, no. But Daniel Jones is so wildly overpaid that then yes, I'm worried about the contract there.
I mean, yeah.
So what if they were both making, say, $30 million?
I would take Daniel Jones.
I would probably take Daniel Jones if they were both making $30 million.
Yeah, but since Daniel Jones is making close to $50 million a year, I mean,
I would take Mac Jones.
I agree.
Okay, what about
Cleveland and Deshaun if that doesn't pan?
I would stick with Deshaun. If it doesn't pan out, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, theoretically, if Deshaun goes out there, sucks, requests a trade or whatever, would I go get Mac Jones? Yes. Like, would he be one of my options? Yeah. I think he'd be crazy to rule him out. What if Will Levis isn't the guy, and now there's Tannehill? Like, would I take Mac Jones over both of those guys? Probably, yeah.
You would take Mac Jones over Tannehill?
Yeah, for sure.
That's one that would be a little closer for me, I think. I mean, Tannehill's been kind of successful.
What about Jimmy G?
I would take Jimmy G.
I would take Mac Jones. I think he's a much younger and more stable player.
I just think Jimmy G.
Consistently hurt. He might not even. Did you see the new story out? So, beat writer for ESPN for the Raiders, Jimmy G may never play a game in a Raiders uniform
because of the foot thing.
He still can't. He's still not even cleared to play.
Is it the foot surgery?
It's the foot thing. He's consistently hurt. That's what he's consistent in.
Sure, but when he does play, he's a good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. You know that. Hell, he's gotten to a Super Bowl and competed with Patrick Mahomes.
So now, like,
competed
if we're looking at who would be better for Vegas right now, I think Mac Jones is better for Vegas.
Well, yeah, if Jimmy G's going to be
with those weapons.
If Jimmy G's going to be hurt, then I would go Mac Jones.
Okay, now Mac Jones or Tua?
Tua's way more special. You know Tua's way more special than Mac Jones. Don't even look at me like that. You're not going to say it's Mac Jones.
Slight edge to Tua.
Okay.
I think it's closer than you think.
It's closer, but I
okay,
it's another injury concern. That's
it.
If you take away the injury concern from Tua, I'm taking Tua all day.
Jordan Love or Mac Jones?
Mac Jones.
Thank you.
Mac Jones. I'll go Mac Jones on that one.
Jared Goff or Mac Jones?
Jared Goff. Okay. Jared Goff's been to a Super Bowl.
Kirk Cousins.
If the lights are on and it's 8 p.m., I'm taking Mac Jones, but any other time I'm going to take Kirk.
Including salaries. You're telling me right now, what if they could start over, basically, not completely start over because you're going to have to pay Mac in a sense in a couple of years, but probably not the big number that you'd be paying Kirk?
Yeah.
You don't think they would do it? I think they would do it in a heartbeat. I think you're basically getting the same player.
I think you wait a couple of years.
I think they're getting a very similar player,
Sure, but I think before that could be any sort of like real legitimate conversation, you'd have to go a couple of years down the line and see what's happening with Kirk, how many years he's going to give you. Because I'd say you would roll with Kirk and the stable veteran in the room before you would go to a Mac Jones who has had one good season, one decent season, and one very underwhelming. I think we need more of a sample size from Mac Jones before you can go and replace a guy like Kirk Cousins. This is all.
Okay, that's fair. What about Anthony Richardson?
See, now this is one where if he doesn't...
Like right now, I gun to your head, have to make a decision. You've never seen Anthony Richardson play. You got to go based solely on potential.
Mac Jones to start, Anthony Richardson to sit and learn behind him for a little bit.
Not an option. You have to take one or the other. I'd go Anthony Richardson.
I think Anthony Richardson's better.
I'd also go CJ, and I would go CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think they're very similar players, but CJ's better.
I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm not very high on Mac Jones whatsoever.
I think I'm a little bit higher. I'm still realistic. Like, I think he's about the 20th best quarterback at best.
Yeah.
But I would take him over, a good amount of people.
You said about
Tannehill.
like 7 or 8 that you would probably take him
Yeah,
over.
okay, so that puts him at what, like 24 somewhere around there? I could argue up to 20, but yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It'll be
Not
interesting
bad.
to see how it plays out this year with some new coordinators, some new
Derek Carr, Mac Jones.
Derek Carr.
Thank you. Just making sure.
Still-
I'm just making
I'm
sure.
still alive over here.
Okay,
The
I'm
heart's
just
still
making
beating.
sure.
I'm not stroking out. So yeah, I'm saying Derek Carr on that one.
Dak, right?
Dak,
Taking
I'd take
Okay,
Dak.
cool.
I'd take pretty much everybody else. I think.
Okay.
I'd take Kenny Pickett. You go through all the divisions. I mean,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah.
All right.
Guys, that's all we have
That
for
was good.
today.
I don't know why that was just a funny one.
Go check out the newsletter. It's at theissuesports.com. Go search it up, sign up for it. While you're there, check out the shop. Our new summer line is ready to be ordered, and everything will be the orders will be closing on June 22nd, then everything shipping out just a few days after that. So go buy it while you can. Guys, thanks for stopping by. Make sure you go to all of our social medias. All the links can be found in the description in the episode, no matter where you are watching or listening. And guys, until next Thursday, that was The Issue.